Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. Today I'm very excited to check out Herbaceous Sprouts from Pencil First Games, LLC. This is for 1 to 4 players, taking about 30 minutes to play, and it's for ages 8+. And in Herbaceous Sprouts, you are going to be playing as someone planting a gardener. This is a sequel to a game that I really enjoyed called Herbaceous, a card game still have in my collection, but this one is a dice game. Real peaceful, relaxing, family way, but still game nighty enough. Game in which you'll be planting flowers, planting sprouts, and trying to not let weeds get into the garden in too many spots, or else people will steal your lemonade. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. Let's open it up, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Herbaceous Sprouts. So first and foremost, we got our handy-dandy rule booklet. It is 12 pages, double-sided, full color, full of pictures, illustrations, examples, and I had no issues that I can think of with the rule booklet. Very well done. Should have you up and running pretty smoothly, and also I can give you a good hand on learning how to play the game as well, because it is a pretty simple game to learn. And yeah, that's what I like to see when I'm setting up a game board. Look at that. All the components, where they go, love it. So in Herbaceous Sprouts, you're going to be an apprentice gardener, and you're going to be playing plants out into this garden here and planting flowers, doing all sorts of stuff like that by drafting cards and taking dice and using dice in various different ways. So let's go over the components, then let's get into the gameplay. So first we have our big garden right here, and this is really the main area where you're going to score points. There's some other ways that you can score points at the end of the game, which I think, which I'll talk a little bit about later, but primarily you're going to get points from putting out your sprouts on various different locations around the board. How you're going to do that, though, is by looking up here in the corners and seeing what you have to do. So, for instance, this one, you need all of the same type of flower and or herbs. And those can be found on the dice. And how that works is you need 6 of a kind, you'll get 12 points, 5 of a kind, you'll get 9 points if you're the first person, 7 points if you're the second person, and then obviously, as you get less, points go down. Over here, you need different types of herbs, and if you have 5 different types, you get 8 points and 6 points, so on and so forth. Down here, you need pairs that are not the same, and if you can come up with 3 of those, 9 points, good chunk of points. Now the last spot, and the really different, is the flower. So normally on your turn, you could just plant anything over here on these 3 corners of the board, as long as you have the dice to be able to do it. However, with the flower, you actually need a special action in order to do it. You need to use the trowel to plant a flower into its garden. You can get that on cards, or you can get that with your dice. So that's really the main chunk of how you're going to score points. Another way you can score points is by getting the lemonade. So how the lemonade works is the first person who's able to put one of their sprouts in all 4 of the different areas like so, we'll get this lemonade card, and it's worth 2 victory points at the end of the game. Pretty simple. The other way you can score points, I want to make sure I get them right, so I'm going to go check back the rules. 2 victory points for each set of 3 different herbs, 1 victory point for each pair of the same herb, and 1 victory point for each flower. Normally, that's not how you're going to win the game, but it can be the difference between winning and losing in a close game. So next, we have the stars of the show, really, which are the dice and the cards. And we'll just go over the 3 main phases, which are actually laid out pretty nicely on your player aid card right here. You're also going to get some extra stuff, some fluff about what the different flowers and lavenders and all that sort of stuff is, if that floats your boat, and a deck for solo play, which I did actually enjoy. You're playing against a master gardener. It's like one of those ones where it's like, oh, you got to get to 10, and then you're a good gardener, and 15, and you're an amazing gardener, and all that sort of stuff. I'll talk more about that in pros and cons. So let's go through it. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to prepare the tool shed. You're going to deal tool cards and seed dice. So you're going to take these stack of cards, whoever's the lead player, and they are going to take out as many cards as there are players plus 1. So right now I have a 2-player game set up. We need 7 dice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Reach out of this nice handy-dandy little bag. Draw out 7 dice, roll them up, and then we're just going to place them on there. Boop, 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 boop. Now, the lead gardener does not actually get to decide where they go. It just kind of just roll them and then kind of boop, 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 put them on the order without thinking about it. So now let's take a look at it, because now we move on to the next phase, which is the pick and plant seeds. So starting with me, since I'm the lead player, first thing you're going to do is you're going to take one of the tool cards with seed dice on it. Now, what are on these? So first and foremost, you have to look at the dice, because the dice are obviously very important. This one, for instance, would give me 2 of that purple plant and 1 of that pink plant right here. And it would also let me turn a purple plant into anything I wanted one time, which would actually be really stinking useful right now. So I might actually draft that one. This one is just going to let you turn that into anything you want. This one is a little bit different. It's going to allow you to re-roll one die, and this will allow you to plant a plant, which is really kind of nice as well. But I think I would take this one right here, and I would put all 3 of the dice, boom, 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 right down there on my board. And now I'll unleash my magic plant. So this goes away. And then I'm going to discard down to 7 if I don't have 7, but then I'm going to plant something out here. Now, you don't have to. This is optional, but I feel like now would be a good time to kind of snag it up. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of herbs. And the way I'm able to do that is because, boom, I can turn that into anything I want. So now I have 4 different types of herbs, and just like that, I've got myself 5 points. These dice go away. That dice stays there. And then I see plant sprouts, which I can't, or plant the flowers, whatever. And then I do the cleanup. But right now, it's back to the next person's turn. So they're going to draft one of these as well. They do the same thing. Then the next person, well, this is a 2-player game, which actually is a good time to show you what happens. So one card is going to be left at the end of each round. Now, if you look on the bottom left-hand corner, this is only for, I believe, 2- and 3-player games. It's going to show you where a weed is going to start growing, which is bad because that means no one else is going to be able to go to that spot. So, put a weed right there. That's not a weed. The weeds are the blue ones. You're going to put a weed right there, and then no one is going to be able to play on that location. Also, these guys can steal your lemonade as well, so you want to be faster than they are when you do it. So, next what you're going to do, you're just going to rinse, wash, and repeat. Next person's going to go, flip over 3 cards, boom, boom, and boom, and do the exact same thing over and over and over again. So let's show you some of the different cards and what they look like. I mean, these ones are going to let you plant flowers. As I mentioned, these ones are going to let you plant flowers into the garden. And there's a whole bunch of different special symbols that you'll see. We got the bags, draw and roll 1 die from the bag, and you'll be able to use that. That one's just 3 dice. So different sort of things. The water one, trade 2 identical seeds to plant 1 flower. That's really nice because it's pretty much just like guaranteeing you get 4 points. But anywho, you're going to do this until you run out of cards because you will have the exact right amount of cards for the number of players, at which point you will total up the score at the end of the game by looking all at these, seeing who has the lemonade, and then take another gander down here, and whoever has the most is going to be the winner of the game. Last thing I want to mention is that all of the different dice have their own unique face on them. So like the green one will let you plant flowers. This one's going to let you put it on anything. This one's going to allow you to re-roll. This one's going to allow you to plant. So that also goes into consideration on which colored dice you do. Like, I'm just giving you a brief overview right now, but really you'd be looking at not only the face on the die, but also the color of the die potentially if you planned on re-rolling it. So there's a little bit more extra layer to the game that you might not see at first eye. But that, in a nutshell, is how you're going to play Herbaceous Sprouts. Alrighty then, Herbaceous Sprouts from Pencil First Games LLC. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros. Let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, game's not going to be for everybody for a variety of different reasons. It's a very light, simple game. Now, that being said, there is a good deal of strategy to this game that you don't start to unpack until maybe your 2nd or 3rd game that you play it. But it's by no means a heavy, thinky, meaty game. So you need to know that going into it, that it is definitely on the lighter side, even though I still think it has enough interesting decisions to be a game night style game in addition to a family game. Another con that I have with this game is that the theme is either going to really appeal to you or really not probably appeal to you. For me, it's not really an appealing theme. But that being said, I still have Herbaceous in my collection because I enjoyed it so much, and I'm going to be keeping Herbaceous Sprouts in my collection because I also enjoyed it. So despite the fact the theme is not really something that's a selling point for me, gameplay-wise, it has enough going for it. Another con is I enjoyed the solo to an extent, but it is still the kind of solo where it's just like, see if you could beat your high score and see, oh, you're a great gardener or you're a bad gardener. Different, just see what number you can get to. But that being said, I did enjoy the solo version of the game, but something I probably will never revisit ever again, not even if there's a fire. Any other cons that I have with the game? I think I would like to see some more complexity in the cards in the future. I'd love to see an expansion to this game that bumps it from being, a Gateway Plus game to maybe being, a little bit of a heavier game. Actually, you know what? I would say this is actually maybe not a Gateway game, but like a Gateway Plus game. And I'd like to see maybe just some more special powers, some more special abilities, maybe a special dice chucked in or something like that. That being said, these are all nitpicks, to be honest with you. The other last con I have of this is it doesn't go up to 5 players, which is a little bit of a bummer because, I hit that player count all the time. But if you don't, just ignore that. Moving on to the pros, though, I really enjoyed Herbaceous Sprouts. I enjoyed Herbaceous an awful lot. I enjoyed this. Which one do I like better? That's a good question. I haven't played Herbaceous in probably about 6 months. I think I liked Herbaceous a little bit better, but I like both of them. And I think they're different enough that they both could warrant a spot in your collection, especially if you do like the theme. So what I like about Herbaceous, I really liked how the more I played the game, the more I started to unpack about which dice I wanted to pick. And we would get some really interesting die rolls and some die placement where it's like, oh, it's got those decisions where like I could really use this now and it's going to get me some points, or I could take this one and gamble a little bit and maybe get that big 12-point spot, but I know somebody else is going for that spot as well, and I got to look and see who's going first. And I did like a lot of that stuff right there. I like how the flower system works, so I always felt like there was something I could do for the most part, because you're not only drafting die, but you're also drafting actions. So I never felt too handcuffed in the game, which I also liked as well. I did like the lemonade. I like that. I thought that was a really cool concept about racing towards that, and the fact that the weeds come in as well. And that's an interesting thing, because if you're not really concerned about that lemonade track, then you might take a card that somebody else would probably take because they don't want the weeds to grow there. And I did like that little added little extra of the game. Component-wise, I thought the components were great. Box is not larger than it needs to be. Rules are very well done. It comes like some extra gardening stuff if you're into the theme, which is good. Like, it has the cards and all the informations on it. And in the end, I thought Herbaceous Sprouts was great. This is a game I definitely can recommend you check out if you're in the market for a lighter family game or a very light style game night game, like a Gateway Plus style game that is about the peaceful topic of gardening and drafting some dice. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. If you want to support the channel, click on that little Amazon link down below. Buy anything on Amazon. Anything at all. Throws a couple pennies my way. Really does help support the channel. And in the comments below, let me know, gardening, what is the most impressive gardening thing you have ever done? You know what? Actually, I have a really good one that I did accidentally. So last year, me and my son, my 5-year-old son then, now he's 6. That's because that's how numbers work. And he wasn't born in a leap year. Okay, just shut up. So last year, we had this science experiment where we set this pumpkin, the jack-o'-lantern that we had done, out in the middle of the yard on top of this little play school table. So all winter, this pumpkin just sat there. But what happened was the seeds inside the pumpkins blew all over our front yard, and we ended up growing like 8 pumpkins. So our backyard turned into a pumpkin patch. It was actually really stinking cool, and I secretly want to just do nothing but throw pumpkin seeds in my backyard so I can have a giant pumpkin patch. I think that'd be really stinking cool. But let me know in the comments below, what is your best gardening task that you have ever done? And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.